In this video we'll be looking at set notations and incorporating set notations into Venn diagrams. Now sometimes you may be given a set of numbers or set of members of a list of items that you must categorize into areas of a Venn diagram. So for example, using numbers 1 to 10, place each number in the correct area. So here we've got the numbers of 1 to 10, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each number in numerical order and place them in the correct area of our Venn diagram. Now 1 is not a prime number, contrary to what most people think, and it's also not a multiple of 2, so as it doesn't apply to either of those two groups, it must go outside. Now 2 is a prime number and also a multiple of 2, so as it appears in both, it must go in the area that's overlapped. Now 3 is a prime number but not a multiple of 2, so that goes in just the blue area. And let's go for 4. And 4 is a multiple of 2, but it's not a prime number, so that must go purely in the sort of multiple of 2 area. 5 is a prime number, but not a multiple of 2, so that goes in just the prime number section. 6 is a multiple of 2, but not a prime number. 7 is a prime number, but not a multiple of 2. 8 is a multiple of 2, but not a prime number. 9 is neither a prime number or a multiple of 2, so that goes outside. And finally 10 is a multiple of 2 but not a prime number, so that goes in that section there. And there we've placed all of the numbers from 1 to 10 inside our Venn diagram, whether it be inside both circles, one of the circles, or left completely isolated outside but still within the rectangle. Now when it comes to set notation, let me just make sure that we've got this all on the screen. Now depending on what level you're working at may depend on what you actually need to know. Now in terms of this little crazy little curly whirly E that we've got here, now that is just a Greek letter called xi, and that basically is all the numbers or members to be included. Now I'm just going to miss out the word numbers because it's not always numbers that we're dealing with, so I'm just going to write members to be included. So when you are looking at a set of numbers, that xi number or members has to be included somewhere in one of the groups, and that's just going to be like the total collection. Now we represent sets with curly brackets. Now they don't need to be curly brackets, but we try to differentiate them different to normal brackets so we're not getting confused with BIDMAS. So you tend to find that a little bit curly. So we can have multiple sets. Now you don't have to just have set A, set B, they could be labeled anything, and you can also have an infinite number of sets. Now this little U symbol, which looks a bit like a shoehorn, basically means or. So that's the numbers that appear or members that appear in all the groups will be included in that statement. The reverse of that, which looks more like an N symbol, basically means and there you would write down all the numbers or members that appear in all the groups that are mentioned. Now the next thing we come on to is like this little symbol, which I'm just going to highlight. So let's just get the pink highlighter, is this symbol here. Now basically if you see that symbol there, it basically means that every member of A is also a member of B. And the reverse of that would be the reverse of that statement. So every member of B is in A. And it's just important that you recognize the direction of that little loop. But this sort of set notation tends to appear more on the higher paper. So if you're not doing the higher GCSE or high level maths, then I wouldn't worry too much about those last two symbols and what they actually mean. Like I said, it's quite rare for it to appear on the GCSE paper, but if it does and you want to extend your knowledge, then that's what you need to do. Now I would certainly make a note on revision cards or revision posters or your exercise book of everything in that group. Now let's have a look at a particular question. So it says if we have the numbers of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Set A has the numbers of 1, 2, 6, 5, 9, and B has the numbers 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 10. And what we need to do is we need to write down the numbers that appear in both. Now this little symbol here means and. So I want to write down the numbers that appear in both set A, which is this set of numbers here, and in set B. So the numbers that appear in both are going to be 2, 5, and 6. Now do you have to write the numbers in that numerical order? No, but again it's very good practice, and if you wanted to you could write them in curly brackets. Now this little U symbol basically means or, and what I need to do is I need to write down the numbers that are either in group A or group B, or they could be in both, but I'm just going to write them down once. So looking at this, I'm just looking for the numbers from my data set, which are the numbers 1 to 10, writing down the numbers that are both in, that are in A or B. So that's going to be 1, which is in A, 2, which is in both, 3 which is in B, 4 is not appearing any, so I missed that one out, 5 which appears in both, 6 appears in both, 8 which appears, there's no 7, 8 which appears in just B, 9 which appears in just A, and 10 which appears in B. And so there I've highlighted all the numbers that are in either A or B. Now this little apostrophe A basically means that which members are not in group or set A. So which numbers from my numbers of 1 to 10 inclusive of those numbers are not in set A. So the first number I spot straight away is 3 is not in the group, 4 is not in the group, 7 is not in the group, 8 is not in the group, and 10 is not in the group. So again, I'm not worried about what's in group B, I'm just focusing on the numbers that aren't in set A. So let's go through some quite common examples that you might get asked in an exam. So here we've got, the question is asking us to illustrate the following in a Venn diagram. So here we've got our total set of numbers that we need to include in this diagram, which are the numbers of 1 to 6. Now try not to take for granted the first number and the second number, think that we've included all the numbers in between. It's always worth just double checking to make sure there is no number missing. Now from this we've also got set A and we've got set B. Now the first thing you want to do is first of all establish, are there any numbers appearing in both? Now typically whenever you see two sets, it's quite common for students to do one circle and then another circle. Doesn't matter if they don't know like circles. We're going to call this A and we're going to call this B. Now when you are completing a Venn diagram, I strongly recommend you always start in the middle. So for the middle section includes numbers that appear in both A and B, which looking at these two sets of numbers, there are no numbers that appear in A that also appear in B. So for this, what we need to do, then moving on to A. So what numbers appear in just A? Well, that's going to be 1, 2, and 3. What numbers appear in just B? That's going to be 5 and 6. And are there any numbers from our total list of numbers that we haven't included that aren't in A or B? Well, that's going to be the number 4. So 4 goes outside. And that will be our completed diagram. Now, one thing that you should be able to notice is that we've got this empty gap which is in the middle. Now if you find that there is an empty gap in the middle, then there is no really reason for those two circles to overlap. So one thing I could do is redraw this Venn diagram and draw it as two separate circles. Because there is no overlap, basically what that means is that the numbers in A are independent from the numbers in B because there is no overlap. So what I'll do is I'd write 1, 2, 3 in this number in this group, 5 and 6 in B, and 4 outside. So the only time that the circles need to overlap is if you have something in the middle. If there is no overlap, you can write them as two separate circles, but also not forgetting to make sure you put a box around your Venn diagram just to show that you've completed all the numbers, and every number you can see is in this sort of set of numbers that we've got to represent in terms of our Xi numbers. So moving on to our next question. So again, this time we're not dealing with numbers, we're dealing with letters. Now again, what we're looking at is we're looking at the letters in our sort of Xi collection. These are all the letters that I need to include in my diagram. So I've got the letters of A, B, C, D, E, F. Now again, I've got two groups. So I'm going to draw two ovals. I'm going to call one set C and one set D. So again, I'm looking at, are there any letters that appear in both sets? Well, yes, there is C and there is D. Now for this, I can cross them off in both so I'm not getting confused. I've already included those two letters. So for A, I've got A and B, which is just in C, and I've got the letter E, which is just in D. Now from my total list of letters, are there any letters that I've missed out? Well, yes, I'm missing F, so F goes outside, and there is my completed Venn diagram. Now moving on to the next one. So here, looking at my total list of numbers, I've got the numbers of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got two groups again, so I'm just going to just randomly draw my two groups, and I've got E and I've got F. Now again, looking at trying to find out which numbers appear in both, if any, and you can see that 4 appears in both lists. I've got 4. Now the other numbers I've got left unique to E, which are 3 and 5, and which of the numbers from my list of numbers that have I not written inside any of those two groups? Well, that's going to be 1 and 2. Now as you can see, again I've got another empty gap. Now this empty gap represents the areas that's just F, which basically means that because 4 is because there's only one number in F and that number is also in E, then another way of drawing this Venn diagram is to draw my circle of E, which includes the numbers of 3, 5, and 4. But because F just includes the number 4 and 4 is also included in E, then I can represent this diagram like so. So I can have a circle within a circle, and that basically means, so it's a bit like using the symbol there, where I've got that all the letters in F are included in E. And so it's again looking at those things and try and make sure that it doesn't look like a C, it just makes it stand a little bit unique, but it's just something that you just want to bear in mind of. And obviously I've missed out two numbers, which are the other two, which are 1 and 2. So again, if you have got that empty section, then your Venn diagram doesn't necessarily need to look like this. If one section is empty, it's going to be one circle inside of another. If the middle section is empty, then it's going to be two separate circles. Now let's have a look at a worded problem. So it says in the Venn diagram, the numbers show the number of students who like their teacher. So here we've got Xi, which is the total number of students that were asked. A is the students who like their art teacher. M is the number of students who like their music teacher. Use the information to find the number of students who like, and then here we've got their art teacher. Now the art teacher is the numbers that are inside our blue circle, in which we need to add the numbers together. So imagine there's people in that, the number represents how many people are in each of those sections. So how many people are in the art? Well, there's 4 people here, there's 7 people here, so the answer is going to be 4 plus 7, which is 11. Now for the music teacher, again we've got 12 people in this section, 4 people in this section, so that's going to be 12 plus 4, which is 16. Then we're looking for how many students like both them, maths and art, music and art teacher, and that's going to be this number that is overlapped in both of those two circles, which gives me an answer of 4. Now neither art or music is basically the number outside, and that's going to be 6. Now 5 is art but not music. Now art and not music is basically the numbers that are just in that pink section, not in the overlap section. So for the blue section, so that's going to be an answer of 7. And then the opposite of that, well, how many people like them just like their music teacher? Well, that's going to be 12. And then the total number of students that were asked? Well, here I just need to add up all the numbers I've got. So I've got 6 plus 12 plus 4 plus 7, and adding that up, I've got 6 plus 12, which is 16, plus 18 plus 4, which is 22, plus 7, which is 29 students. And there, my final answer.